Alright, hello everyone, my name is Skirboga, Captain Skirboga, and welcome back to another episode of Project Eden's Garden. In the last video, I left you off on a cliffhanger where Diana is supposedly the killer of Wolfgang, which is so sad, but we're gonna see if that's actually true because I believe she's not the killer and just a red herring, so let's carry on with the episode.
No! I refuse to believe it!
Looks like some people here aren't willing to face the facts. That's not a problem. I'll make them face the facts. Whether they like it or not, soon enough nobody will be able to deny Diana killed Wolfgang. I'm denying it. I'm in Delululand. Delululand. She's so nice. Suspicious note.
If it was Diana inside that boiler room, could she be the one who left the blood trail?
Yes.
Because if so, that might be her blood on the knife too.
Diana's blood? Are you saying she wounded herself?
No.
Wounded herself? What makes you think that?
I don't know. Why else would the killer's blood be on their own weapon?
Did we not already agree the killer was wielding a rolling pin?
Well, maybe they had both.
What kind of truth bullets are these?
The rolling pin in one hand, and the knife in the other.
Dual wielding weapons?
I don't think that's
Holy,
true.
This killer's next level.
That person's point is clearly impossible. They should realize as much if I point out that piece of— oh, okay, the rolling pin.
If
You
it
gotta
was
get the rolling
Diana inside that boiler room, could she be?
pin. No, dual. No. No, I think we gotta attack the tooth thing, right?
Did we not already agree? The killer was wielding a rolling pin? And the knife in the other.
Dual wielding weapons? Holy, this killer's next level.
Oh shoot, okay, it's Toshiko. Toshiko. Yeah, it's Toshiko. So we gotta attack Toshiko's.
The rolling pin in
One hand.
No, that's wrong!
Yeah, that's right. You get him, Damon! Get him! Get him! Get him!
No. The killer was only wielding the rolling pin during their confrontation with Wolfgang. You can tell just from looking at the pin. There are two handprints wrapped around the edge, as if the killer had been holding the pin like a tennis racket. Which makes sense, because you can swing with more force if you use both hands. And that's what a killer wants when trying to knock out a grown man.
Then, who held the knife?
It wasn't the killer, so it was most likely the only other person in the boiler room. Wolfgang Akire.
The hell are you talking about? Wolfgang, carrying a dangerous weapon?
If you were in his situation, wouldn't you? Wolfgang received an anonymous message asking him to meet in a basement, all whilst in the middle of a killing game. At that point, it doesn't matter how much of an optimist he is. He'd know better than to come unarmed.
A knife isn't super hard to find, either. Wolfgang probably just stole one from the kitchen.
Besides, if Diana is the one who got stabbed, it would explain the blood trail. Think about it. She arms herself with the rolling pin and attacks Wolfgang, getting hurt by him in the process. For some reason, possibly because of the blackout, she doesn't clean the blood trail she's leaving, and returns to her dorm room after.
No! That's wrong!
Huh?
I wasn't stabbed. If I was stabbed, then I'd have an injury. But there's nothing, right? There's nothing on me.
Because you're a makeup artist and you hit it.
Depends. If a vein got nipped, you'd be seeing blood no matter the size of the cut. Of course, that also means a small cut will need bandaging. which I'm not seeing on you.
You may not see any injuries on Diana, but that doesn't mean they aren't there.
Huh?
If she wanted, she could simply hide her injuries from view. After all, someone like her has exactly what it takes.
Diana's talent.
I got it.
Yeah.
Her talent. As the ultimate cosmetologist, Diana could easily cover her wounds.
It makes sense. With the right equipment, she could probably disguise even a bandaged wound.
As Diana's bunking partner, I've seen firsthand how many different cosmetics are inside her room. So unfortunately, I have to agree.
Well, Diana, did I get anything wrong?
No. No. But
Wait. Diana, did you just say no? As in, no, you're not wrong that I covered up my wounds? Oh, crap. Oh, crap. You guys know what this means, right, guys? Diana basically just confessed!
A confession? Are you for real?
It makes sense, though, doesn't it? Diana got wounded, which proves she got in a fight with Wolfgang. Which means all that stuff about Wolfgang going to the boiler room, all that stuff really did happen.
I see. I see now what you were saying. Diana, she lured Wolfgang to the boiler room by writing him that note. And when he arrived, she attacked him and killed him. And now, she's been lying this entire trial, hoping we would never suspect her. Yeah! How cruel!
Diana, It wasn't me! I promise, it wasn't me.
To think she could preach about friendship after committing a violent crime.
And then try and sentence the rest of us to punishment.
Golly, you're right. If we voted for the wrong person, we would have been executed.
Ah! That's so fucked! Seriously, Diana? What the hell is your damage?
Can we at least hear Diana's side of the story?
Her side?
Well, you know, Diana has, I just think it's fair we listen. Yeah, I think we should do the pathos route on her.
What does it
and be
matter
like,
what
"But
she
she
says?
wouldn't hurt a fly." Let's do that. Is there gonna be a route for that? Can we
Look
do that?
at the evidence. This case, it's closed. We know who the killer is. If you really want to ask for Diana's side of the story, then do it after the vote. No. No, no!
That's right, we have to vote for the killer. Diana, I've proven beyond a reasonable doubt that she's the killer. No, we haven't! We have not. I've proven it beyond a reasonable doubt, so...
No. No. No.
Why is it that when I hear her cry, I get this strange nagging feeling in my chest? Because you're wrong, Damon! Why does a tiny part of me want to believe the things she's saying? Why all of a sudden do I doubt myself? Come on, there's gotta be a pathos route eventually, right? Grace testimony, nice, suspicious note, take a special quest, taser gun.
Diana was the one who lured Wolfgang to the boiler room. Once he got there, she killed him immediately.
Then she fled the crime scene, hoping the rest of us would never learn the truth.
How could you, Diana? Poor Wolfie was only trying to keep us together.
But I would never murder Wolfgang.
Wait.
If you don't have an alibi...
How do I... Focus, speed up, absorb. Okay, shoot, I missed it.
Then you obviously did.
But I wanted to believe so badly that you were innocent.
She is innocent.
I didn't see you for who you were.
If this goes on any longer, I'm gonna be sick.
What are we waiting for then? Let's get this over with and vote!
Diana telling truth. How is that possible when I already know the truth? Cause we know.
Diana was the one
Can I
who
just
lured
do the
Wolfgang to the
pathos
boiler
route,
room.
please?
Then she fled the crime scene, hoping the rest of us would never learn the truth.
How could you, Diana? Poor Wolfie was only trying to keep us together.
But I would never
Wait,
If you
why
don't have
can't
an
I absorb
alibi,
that?
Then you obviously did.
Hoping the rest of us would learn the truth.
I missed my chance. Game over? No! Oh my gosh. How do I absorb? It says E,
Diana
right?
was the
I
one
press
who
E
lured
to
Wolfgang to the
absorb if
boiler
it's a
room.
different color.
Once he got there, she killed him immediately.
No, she didn't.
Then she fled the crime scene,
No, it's not
hoping
Diana.
the rest of us would never learn the truth.
How could you, Diana?
Is it purple? Do I do the
Poor
purple?
Wolfie was only trying to keep us together.
Once he got there, she killed him immediately.
No, that's wrong!
Okay, well, you know what? I tried the pathos route and it didn't work. Need to absorb.
Hold on. Grace, you're overlooking a crucial detail.
Huh?
Do you recall the note I found in Wolfgang's blazer pocket? It asked him to meet in the boiler room at 8:15 a.m. But, according to the Tozu tablet, he died over an hour later at 9:35 a.m. That means Wolfgang didn't die right after he got to the boiler room.
What's your point?
My point is that the killer had no reason to lure Wolfgang to the boiler room and then wait over an hour to kill him. There's no guarantee another person won't enter the room during that time. It's in the killer's best interest to be in and out of there as fast as possible. When we originally discussed the note, we lacked the context to properly understand this time discrepancy. But if we go with your idea that Diana killed Wolfgang immediately, then that discrepancy becomes all too clear.
How do you know Wolfgang didn't just arrive late?
He was already on his way when I ran into him at 8:10 a.m. He must have arrived on time.
Same goes for the killer. I doubt Wolfgang would stay in the boiler room for long if no one came to meet him. For that reason, we can assume Wolfgang was knocked unconscious soon after he arrived. But there's such a long period of time between him being knocked out and him being killed. Unless you want to tell me he and Diana were in an hour-long struggle, then I'm sure there's more to the mystery here.
Shut up!
Jeez, what's happening with you? Why have you got your knickers in a twist?
What the fuck's wrong with you? Don't you see this is a trick? All of Diana's blubbering and crying is just a farce to make us think she's innocent.
I wouldn't fall for a farce like that. My only concern is the evidence not adding up.
If you're still not convinced Diana is the killer, then let me show you something you overlooked. I call it undeniable proof! give a Diana says. Not only is she the one person without an alibi, the blood from her wounds places her inside the exact same room where Wolfgang died. How can the killer be anyone but her?
Grace thinks she. Okay, wait. Grace seems to think she knows more about the crime scene than I do. But if that were true, she would have already realized the flaw in her argument.
I don't give a Diana says. Not only is she the one person without an alibi, the blood from her wounds places her inside the exact same room where Wolfgang died. How can the killer be anyone but her?
If Diana lured Wolfgang downstairs, why would she take over an hour to kill him? It doesn't make sense. Not when there's a risk of someone else entering the boiler room.
Because the lock?
What risk?
Hold on. Wait. Swipe, fire, truth, hold. Cycle. Oh, okay.
Diana wouldn't have to worry about anyone walking in because she could just lock the door. Boom. Look at that. No intruders. Now take your argument and shove it up your ass.
No. How do I change? Shoot. I know. Okay,
What
storage
risk?
closet, suspicious note.
Diana wouldn't have to worry about anyone walking in because she could just lock the door. Boom. Look at that. No intruders. How are they gonna enter? By facing through the door?
No, wait.
What risk? Diana wouldn't have to worry about anyone walking in because she could just lock the door.
No, she can't.
I'll cut through those words.
No, she can't. Go, you get him, Damon. You get him.
The boiler room door can't be relied upon here. If Diana locked it, she would be trapping herself inside the boiler room.
What?
The doorknob has been flipped so that the keyhole faces inside, while the lock faces outside. Had you investigated the crime scene more closely, you might have realized this detail sooner. In any case, locking the door would lock everyone inside the room, not outside. If Diana was the killer, she'd be better off leaving the door open.
How the heck do you even flip a doorknob? Sounds like something only a tradesperson could do.
Meh, you really think so? Swapping a doorknob is easy. Well, last time I did anything like it was a while ago, but everyone here knows knobs are screwable, right? If you get a screwdriver and know what you're doing, you can rotate the doorknob quick smart.
If you can swap a doorknob, then I guess anyone can.
Right on! Wait, are you saying that like it's a bad thing, or...?
Is that why Diana remained in the boiler room after Wolfgang died? She had been locked inside?
What do you make of the footsteps then? If they were Diana's, it would imply she escaped the boiler room. How do you suppose she did that?
Diana's way of escaping the boiler room. From the evidence in the boiler room, I'm fairly confident I can deduce a method. It's the bobby pin. The bobby pin. Bobby pin.
This is it.
Yeah.
Near the boiler room door, I discovered a thin piece of metal. At first glance, it didn't look important, but if you were to fold it in half, theoretically, it would look like a hairpin.
Ah, she used the classic maneuver. Picking a lock with a hairpin. It can be done, it just takes a bit of practice.
Diana probably had this hairpin inside her makeup bag, so she used it to fiddle with the lock until it eventually came undone. Which, judging by the timing of her footsteps, happened late into the blackout.
Messing with a lock in pitch blackness. Whew, now that would be impossible for me.
Right. Even if Diana did access light, like through the Tozu trinket, undoing the lock would still be difficult. Way too difficult of a situation to deliberately put herself in.
In which case, that can mean only one thing. She's not the killer. What? Someone else, the bucket was placed, the door was never locked. The bucket, someone else locked the door?
I got it.
I think she locked it herself by closing the door.
Someone else must have locked the door.
What?
If we go off our current train of thought, the doorknob was rearranged so you could only lock it from the outside. It doesn't make sense for Diana to rearrange the lock, enter the room, and deliberately trap herself inside, which means someone else must have locked the door. I know this doesn't necessarily clear Diana's suspicion, but it's strange enough to warrant further investigation.
I'd rather resolve this threat before we move on to voting.
Agreed. We could easily miss something important if we turn our noses away.
So, why did this mystery person close the door in the first place?
What if they saw the scuffle between Wolfie and Diana and closed the door to protect themselves?
Instead of seeking help? Or trying to stop the scuffle?
You say that like closing the door isn't exactly what you would do.
What kind of asshole do you take me for?
Any chance they locked it to prevent Diana from escaping?
And somehow unscrewed the doorknob without drawing attention to themselves?
Didn't you hear him? He's talking about the door being locked, not the doorknob being unscrewed.
Unless two entirely different people just so happen to interfere with the boiler room at two entirely separate intervals. The one who locked the door is most likely the one who flipped it, yes?
Yes.
Then you should be wondering the same thing. How did they unscrew the doorknob without catching anyone's attention?
Yeah.
Man, I
doesn't
hate to
sound
say it,
possible.
but Ava's the only one I can
Not
think
in the
of
moment,
that
it
hangs
isn't.
out in the basement a
But
lot.
what if the doorknob had been swapped beforehand? Say this person knew Wolfgang and Diana were coming to the boiler room. They could have swapped the knob in advance.
Oh, shoot.
Waited for Diana and Wolfgang
Well-
to enter, and then closed and locked the door.
So the flipping of the doorknob was premeditated?
Is it Ava?
With what we currently know,
I don't think anyone
I'd
else
wager
hangs
it's our
out
safest
in the
assumption.
basement aside from her.
At least until we hear Diana's side of the story.
Diana, since you were the last person with Wolfgang, your testimony could be our most valuable piece of evidence yet. You need to tell me what happened.
Damon, I don't think you're gonna like what's happening.
If not for me, or for you, then at the very least, do it for Wolfgang's sake.
I'm sorry. I'm really...
Get to the point, woman.
Really? I wanted to help. I wanted to make everything okay.
I don't need you to cry.
But all
girl.
I could do was be useless. All I could do was watch him die. It's all my fault. All my fault. For doing the wrong thing.
So is this a confession, or...
No!
Huh?
I didn't kill Wolfgang. And I don't know who did, but I still failed him as a friend. I failed him then. And I failed him here. But if I told the truth, things would be worse than they already are. But now that I've said nothing...
Diana watched Wolfgang die?
It's okay, sweetheart. Come on now, take deep breaths.
Yeah, we'll believe you no matter what you say.
It's looking like Diana might actually be innocent. Yeah, we knew that. It's looking like that, but the nagging feeling in my chest still hasn't gone away. What am I doing? Because of one girl, I've been doubting myself and jumping from one argument to another. Don't you hate her too? If I can't piece together my own thoughts, how can I possibly piece together this case? I need to get a grip on myself. I need to keep sight of myself and the goal of this killer. Whatever is thrown at me next, I need to persevere. Because if I don't, if everyone else here votes wrong, I won't leave this place alive. What's happening?
Has all this murder hubbub left your head in a tizzy? Perhaps you need a short break. Something to lighten the mood and let you collect yourself. Something like a nice cup of tea. Welcome, one and all, to the first episode of Tozu's Tea Time. If you haven't already, please sit back and relax. Here, we do not use our brains, but deal only in gossip. Now, a question from me to you. What are sheep good at, if anything? Most humans, and some sheep, tend to respond with a resounding, absolutely nothing. Sheep cannot create art or invent medicine. For goodness sake, they can't even perform music. Their limited speech and quadrupedal locomotion prevents them from reaching the heights of humans. They're practically glued to the lower echelons of the food chain. No matter how hard sheep may try, they will never be anything more than their number tags. I can't say I like that answer. Too pessimistic for me. Plus, what of the sheep who still try? The sheep who realize their fate but continue to challenge it all the same. That they can be so determined to prove their worth when humans have all but deemed them microwavable meals. Isn't that something admirable? What a shame our sheep had to be so misguided. It seems that's about all the time we have. Thank you again for attending Tozu's Tea Time. No need for extravagant farewells. I've an inkling you'll be back for tea sooner than you can say Jack Robinson. Who's Jack Robinson? I have no idea. Ta-ta!
Diana, now's your chance to defend yourself. Tell me what happened.
Where do I even start, though?
How about you begin by explaining why you went to the boiler room?
Why I went there? It was 'cause of a note.
A note?
2 days ago, someone slid one into my room. I never got to see who. I just heard a knock. And when I walked over, there was a note under my door.
I don't remember any of this.
Sorry. It was midday-ish, and you weren't there at the time. And I didn't show you the note later because, well, I'll just read you what it said.
Diana, as you are aware, it is our obligation to speak with those whose blackmail we have obtained. After receiving your blackmail and reading the information disclosed in it, I believe a meeting between the two of us is warranted. In 2 days' time, please come to the underground boiler room at 8:45 a.m. Make sure to arrive promptly and close the door behind you. To avoid discourse, do not show anyone this letter. Do not approach me about it either, even in private. There are always the chance that someone can hear. Wolfgang. But Wolfgang has like really messy handwriting. There's no way he wrote that.
Wolfie wrote this?
No. I don't think he wrote this.
Wolfgang had Diana's blackmail? But didn't he have Jean's?
Hold on a sec. If you take a closer look, the handwriting on that note, doesn't it resemble the handwriting on Wolfgang's note?
You're actually right. Even though Wolfgang's note has been water damaged, the words I can make out were in the same messy scrawl as Diana's here.
Then someone else was posing as Wolfgang?
The killer, most likely. They must have thought his word was the only one Diana would follow.
Guess it worked, huh?
I didn't want to show this note earlier. Because I was scared of how people would try to twist it. Like saying I faked the note, or that I decided to kill because of it. I thought it would be better to just stay quiet. I know you guys think I'm stupid for agreeing to meet in a place like the boiler room. And I am. I am stupid. I just didn't want to disappoint Wolfgang, in case he really did write the note, which was why I left my room around 8:40 a.m. and went downstairs.
Did you catch any strange movement down there?
No, it was just me. I did find the boiler room door hanging open a little bit, but I didn't think much of it. I just went inside and closed the door behind me, since that's what the note asked me to do.
What did you see inside the boiler room?
The boiler room was really dark, so the first thing I noticed was actually the security camera light. My eyes had to take a few seconds to adjust to everything else. But after that, I finally saw him. Wolfgang was lying in the water, making these weird noises. It didn't seem like he'd even notice me entering the room. Not until... Wolfgang?
Oh, I love when they have voice lines.
Hearing his name seemed to snap him out of his trance, because he slowly rose to his feet. Wolfgang, are you okay?
It's you.
Huh?
I can't believe it.
Are you on some hallucination stuff?
I really am finally meeting you.
What do you mean?
Please, forgive me. Please forgive me for what I've become.
Wolfgang?
Despite how hard I tried, how much I wanted it to be true, I could never become you. I will always be a failure.
Does he think Diana is his mom?
It's okay, Wolfgang. Look! There's stairs over here. Come over here and we can get out. I have no idea if he didn't hear me, or if he was just ignoring me. But, okay. I'll get closer to you then. I went over to the ledge of the platform, the part where the fence had a gap. Just take my hand, okay? And I'll pull you out. He slowly stumbled over. And he held my hand. I
Wait,
didn't really
if he
think I
thinks
could pull him
Diana
out.
is his mom,
I
then
just
why
wanted
would
to
he
be there
try
for him. It was the best
to
I could
attack
do.
her? I'm so confused.
Because I didn't want to enter the water. Staying on the platform felt so much safer. And I really, really hate that it did. It's okay, Wolfgang. We'll get through this together, all right? I was looking at him when I said that. I was looking right at him. But somehow... somehow I didn't think to react. When he reached inside his blazer.
Man, that's kind of ugly looking, man. Him looking all disheveled. Man.
Bring her back.
Wait, did he switch to his dad? I'm so confused. Wait, so originally he was talking to his mom, and now his dad? Ooh! That's scary.
I tried to leave the room, but the door was locked. I didn't know what to do. I started looking around for things to defend myself with. And that's when I saw the gun.
The taser gun? Did you use it?
I took the taser, and I aimed it at Wolfgang. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't shoot him. I just backed away from him. I couldn't understand anything. Why was this happening to me? Why was I being attacked? Why can't I do anything to...
That's creepy. Creepy. Creepy, creepy, creepy.
I'm not like you.
Yeah, you're
I'll
trying to
never
kill her. I think you
be
are.
like you.
I think you are just like your dad. I'm sorry.
I won't give up until the world knows. I won't give up until everyone knows me as...
All of a sudden, everything turned white. Everything in front of me.
Holy crap.
Except Wolfgang. In those few seconds, he became pitch black. And then, so did everything else. Even though I didn't see Wolfgang fall over, I heard it. His body cracking against the pavement, and his knife falling into the water. I waited for the gasp of pain, for him to groan or mumble or say something, but there was nothing. There was just me and the silence. That's how it happened.
What the fuck?
That man attacked you?
Oh my goodness, Diana, I'm at a loss for words.
I believe it.
This is getting too much for me, bros. I think I'm gonna faint.
Holy shit. So Diana really did watch Wolfgang die.
But why was he so violent towards her? It's like he became an entirely different person.
The word you're looking for is crazy.
Despite how hard I tried and how much I wanted it to be true, I can never become you. Why would Wolfgang say those words in that particular moment? Because he's drugged. That's why.
How'd you manage to escape the boiler room after all that?
By picking the door's lock.
For reals?
I wasn't even thinking. I just started feeling my way back to the door in the dark. And then, well, my supply bag. I remembered the spare hairpins I always kept inside. So I felt around the bag and dug one out. To be honest, I have no idea how I managed to unlock the door. The whole thing was repeated trial and error.
What luck?
Just
That was
minutes
real
of
luck
me
right
telling
there.
myself that somehow this next attempt will finally work.
Whoa! Actually unlocking the doors. That's like hitting a bullseye blindfolded.
Now we know why it took so long for her to escape.
I realized why it happened. Getting trapped inside, I mean. The door's lock was on the outside. So, someone must have set the lock before I came downstairs. So that when I closed the door, I'd be trapped.
The lock is normally on the inside too. The killer purposely flipped it, then left the door open so you would be the one to close it. As for why the killer locked the door to begin with,
It was to frame Diana, right?
right. The killer made Diana trap herself inside the boiler room, so they could kill Wolfgang in front of her, and force her to remain by his body. Had their plan worked, Diana would only be able to escape if someone from outside entered the boiler room.
And that's why the announcement worked, because the body was discovery requires 3 people. If we're going the same route that Danganronpa does, that would mean Diana was number 1, and then Damon and Kai were 2 and 3. That's why everyone else got the announcement. Bada bing, bada boom, here we go, people.
By which point, that someone would be stumbling across what looks like a cut-and-dry murder case.
If the tournament folk found Diana, they would have been playing right into the killer's hands.
Speaking of which... Diana, I'm curious to know, did you unlock the door before or after the tournament attendees arrived downstairs?
It sort of happened at the same time. Like, when I opened the door, there were already people walking down the stairs. Obviously, I couldn't stay inside the boiler room. If anyone saw me close to Wolfgang's body, it would look really bad. The hallway was a bit easier to make out in the dark, so I walked over to a wall bordering one of the storage closets and hid behind it, and stayed as quiet as possible. I was still bleeding a little from Wolfgang's cut though, and some of that blood ended up dripping onto the floor around me.
It's the blood on the underground floor! It's all coming together!
This was shortly before us tournament goers split up. And you made a run for it, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Down the hallway, up the stairs, and then as quietly as possible into my room. Since everything was still really dark, I had to patch myself using the Tozu trinket's projection as my light. I realize this is a lot, and I know it's hard to believe without proof. So, if you guys could just give me a second.
Reaching into her makeup bag, Diana pulled out a wipe and began scrubbing her arm.
I cleared up the blood pretty fast. Luckily for me, the cut wasn't that deep. There's still a chance it may leave a scar, though.
Holy crap!
That's awful! It's okay. I'll cover it back up again.
You really shouldn't. Wounds like
Why
that
did
shouldn't be
Wolfgang
covered.
attack you for no reason?
I wouldn't say it was for no reason.
You're being kind of insensitive, man.
Huh? I didn't mean it like that. What I'm trying to say is, Wolfgang's actions may look random from an outsider's perspective, but from his perspective, well, judging by his behavior, it seems like he saw something which shook him to his core.
Like, there was something in the room that Diana didn't see?
That's impossible! It was only me and Wolfgang in the boiler room!
I don't believe Jean meant it in a literal sense.
Wolfgang literally saw something?
He thought he saw something, is my point.
You mean he had been hallucinating?
What did Wolfgang hallucinate for him to turn out the way Diana described?
His parents.
You'd be surprised by the sort of things our minds can invent. I'm lucky to have never experienced anything myself, but I know some who have hallucinated nasty things. Demons and monsters, or the feeling of being tortured. If Wolfgang went through something similar, I can see why he lashed out.
Now what the heck is going on at sea?
Of course, these hallucinations don't just happen out of the blue. More often than not, they're substance-induced.
Substance-induced?
That's what I'm saying.
Just say Wolfgang took a hallucinogenic.
Hallucinogenics?
One which induced a lot of fatigue, too, judging by the way he lumbered about in Diana's account.
It would explain why Wolfgang mostly stayed in one place.
One place, which happened to be in the water.
Seems very deliberate, aye. I reckon the killer knocked Wolfgang unconscious in order to drag him into the water, but knew he would eventually wake up again. So they drugged him with something which would basically make him despondent. As for where the drug came from...
Oh no! Don't tell me the killer robbed...
I knew exploring it was a bad idea.
It? What's this it we're talking about?
The pharmacy, obviously. Why the heck did we think leaving that place open was a good idea? Now someone's stolen an item and drugged Wolfgang. Fuck! I knew our promise was too good to be true! I can't trust any of you guys! And don't say Wolfgang drugged himself! Who wants to be tortured by demons?
Well, stranger people do exist.
That's rich coming from you!
It's just as I predicted, exploring the pharmacy ended up paving the way for murder. Should I have made more of an attempt to stop people from exploring? Back then, all I did was... With cautious yet determined expressions, the students entered the newly opened pharmacy. Giving everyone unrestricted access to medication sounded like a disaster in the making, but having already evoked the group's ire after speaking my mind before, I wasn't about to make the same mistake twice. I'll just stay quiet, let them do their thing. Well, it wouldn't have mattered if you said anything because it would have happened regardless, even if you tell people not to explore. Then again, nobody would have listened to me. Especially now with Wolfgang in control.
If we know where the perpetrator got their chemicals, I guess our next step is figuring out how they did the drugging.
Agreed. It would help us better understand the timeline of events, and potentially even validate Diana's testimony.
Sounds like you guys can leave this one to me. I'm the kind of person who knows someone back to front the moment I meet them. If you haven't already realized, I've gone and read this killer like an open book.
You're the last person I trust to reach a correct conclusion.
Just you wait! The second you hear what I gotta say, you'll be eating those words!
Pinning down how Wolfgang was drugged may validate Diana's testimony. The question is, how did the killer drug him? With the pin. Wolfgang's neck.
I bet the killer took a
Odd
pill.
smell. Thin piece of metal.
And forced Wolfgang to swallow it.
Generator.
Just
neck.
jab him at that point.
I got it.
Woohoo!
When Wolfgang's wounds were discussed earlier, it was mentioned he had a tiny red dot below the bruise on his neck. During the investigation, I thought this dot was a scab from a mole or pimple. But knowing Wolfgang was drugged, it's clear to see what it really is. A puncture wound.
Considering the timeline of events, an injection would check out. If Wolfgang got drugged a little after 8:15 a.m. and was already feeling the effects when Diana arrived at 8:45 a.m., then we're dealing with something which entered his bloodstream in under 30 minutes. Any normal pill would have taken, probably an hour to dissolve.
Whilst an injection would be much quicker. I see.
That's probably another reason why the killer knocked Wolfgang unconscious. It would have been incredibly difficult to inject him if he was still moving around. Only when they had him right where they wanted, dazed and unable to fight back, did they plunge the syringe into his neck.
With said syringe being filled with a hallucinogenic.
But if this all happened a few minutes after 8:15 a.m., doesn't that make it impossible to pin a suspect?
What? Why is it impossible?
Because everybody's got an alibi for that time. I mean, Damon and I were in my dorm room, and the other party people...
8:15 a.m. Yeah, I was already in the dining hall with Jet, Mark, and Eva.
I left Wolfgang's dorm right after the morning announcement and spent the rest of the hour with Jean.
When Nona and I were in our dorm room together.
And me and Eloise were already sitting down in the courtyard.
Toshiko was giving me the medication she grabbed from the pharmacy.
And, I stayed in my dorm room until 8:40 a.m.
Oh no. If everyone can be accounted for, we really can't discern a suspect.
So, we're back to square one?
Someone here must be lying.
And doesn't plan to stop.
What's messing us over here? Is there a part of this mystery we're getting wrong? Or could it be we're overlooking something? It was ruled out as having no relation to the murder because the wires don't touch the water, but the position of it, the fact it's destroyed, the timing of the blackout, one coincidence is easy to wave off, but when it's coincidence after coincidence after coincidence, then there's something more going on, there's something more to the generator.
If everyone has an alibi for 8:15 a.m., is it possible the killer never actually attacked Wolfie at that time? But his little note said to come by at 8:15 a.m., didn't it?
Yeah, because he got drugged at that point.
Ingrid, do you remember what you said when we couldn't figure out who stole Desmond's taser?
To be honest, I'm drawing a blank.
You suggested we switch subjects and discuss Wolfgang's injuries instead, which we did. As a result, we ended up unraveling more about the case than if we had stuck to the original topic. Right now, we're at a dead end. If we can't get any more leads out of this current discussion, then that's a sign to switch our focus.
Switch our focus to what?
I want to take another look at Diana's testimony.
Mine.
Back when you were describing Wolfgang's death, something stuck out to me.
I won't give up until everyone knows my eyes. Kaboom, baby. That's so... All of a sudden, everything turned white. Everything in front of me, except Wolfgang. In those few seconds, he became pitch black. And then, so did everything else. Plop. Probably his body. Crack. Yikes, bones probably got broken.
The flash of white Diana described must have been the generator exploding, with the darkness afterwards being the blackout. Think about the order of events there. In just a few seconds, the boiler room's generator explodes, and Wolfgang falls over dead.
How does the core relate
Doesn't
to
it
that?
sound like the two are correlated?
Oi, didn't we go over this already?
We did. The generator has nothing to do with Wolfgang's death. Its wires weren't touching the water.
Was the cord
Indeed.
holding
Which
that
is
red
why the
box
murder
we
weapon
saw?
is the taser gun.
It
Diana
didn't look
said
like a
she
box.
never used the
red
taser,
metal
though.
Stuff?
Then she's lying.
I don't think she's lying.
That's not true. I never fired the gun.
It's all good. I believe you. Sure, nobody can dispute the gun was fired. What can be disputed, though, is when it got fired. I wouldn't be surprised if the killer fired that gun way in advance. Like, sometime before Wolfgang arrived downstairs and left it in the boiler room for us to find later.
What? So the taser gun isn't the murder weapon?
I think it's just a ruse.
If Wolfgang wasn't killed with the taser gun or the generator, what other options are we left with?
The taser gun is the only option which makes sense. The murder weapon can't be anything else.
The true murder weapon. Is it possible there's a third source of electricity we haven't considered yet? Am I grasping at straws by thinking something like that? No.
And anyway, the
You're
only
not?
proof Diana never shot the taser is her own word.
Huh? That doesn't make any
Ava,
sense.
What do you mean?
All the evidence supporting your version of events is circumstantial. The note you showed us? That could be a fake alibi you made for yourself.
But it's got the same
The fact that it
handwriting
has the
that we
same
have.
handwriting as Wolfgang's is already suspicious.
No, it's not.
Couldn't that just mean the same person tricked them?
If you earnestly believe Diana didn't write it, then maybe. But do you see what I'm saying? There's no proof Diana never wrote the notes. There's only her word to go by. Because if she did write them, everything about her entering the boiler room at 8:45 a.m. and being locked inside could be a total lie.
I get what you're saying. But if we run with the idea that Diana was the one waiting for Wolfgang all the way back at 8:15 a.m., then we're stuck with the issue we had last time. Why did Diana wait over an hour to kill him?
Because she didn't.
That's also circumstantial. None of us know what really went on between those two in an hour. Ruling someone out because they took a long time to murder is stupid.
Her time says
context?
something different
Sure,
than the one that
I'd say the
Wolfgang
same.
got. Because Wolfgang was knocked
But
out.
since the boiler room is unlocked, anyone can enter. If Diana knocked Wolfgang out, then she took over an hour to kill him with that info in mind.
Okay, but who would enter? No one wants to make a detour down some gross, freaky-looking basement.
Then why
The
do you
boiler
hang
room
out
is
there all the
probably the
time?
most
Ava, you're
covert place a
suspicious.
person can be.
Ava, you're being suspicious. The most covert place. Her words do make sense. After all, I chose to meet Tozu in the boiler room for that very same reason.
Diana claims she didn't write the notes, and she claims she didn't shoot the gun. But where's the hard proof she didn't do any of these things?
I don't know.
The answer lies in what destroyed the generator.
What?
Didn't we already talk about that?
All you guys did was discuss theories, never anything concrete. Settling for a theory isn't good enough when our lives are on the line.
Didn't that drag racer say something about a car
In the
battery?
same way Ava can't rule out Diana's involvement in the case, we can't rule out the generators.
So, we have to figure out what destroyed the generator? What should we do? Just throw out ideas?
It's what we've been doing this whole time.
Oakley dokley.
Yeah, Cassidy, we've been doing this for over like 3 hours now.
Let's put our thinking hats on! If we work together, we'll unravel this mystery for sure. Ready? On your marks, get set, go!
Cassidy, can you just sit in a corner? Let the real people do this, okay?
Why did the generator blow up?
Could have just been an electrical fault.
Nope.
You never know. Even my ship ain't immune to the auto.
Why did the generator blow up?
Could have just been an electrical fault.
Oh,
so,
I don't think that's
a
true. Never mind.
coincidence?
Is this the best situation? To be waving stuff off as a coincidence?
No.
Did the killer throw something at the generator?
Probably.
That made it explode?
Most likely.
Perhaps it's the fault of the taser gun?
No.
The electrical discharge it released might have connected with the generator and created an overabundance of energy, which caused everything in the circuit to pop.
Probably. There's no proof anything besides the taser was involved.
No, that's wrong. You go, Damon. Get him. Get him. Get him.
Unfortunately, Ava, I have to disagree. You say nothing but the taser could have been involved in the murder. But there's one possibility you didn't consider. The shrapnel in the water.
Do you mean those bits of red metal which were floating around?
Right. The ones that look like the aftermath of an explosion. Due to their proximity to the generator, it's safe to assume the two are connected.
Can't that just be debris left by the generator?
Except this debris is a completely different color, and lacks the rust the generator has accumulated. We're obviously looking at the remnants of something else, which means an object we haven't yet identified was caught in the explosion.
And floating near it was another out-of-place item. The what's it called? Extension cord.
This is it.
Woohoo. We're doing so well.
Water was also an extension cord, half of which had been burnt away.
Huh? Did the cord get caught in the explosion?
Seems that cord has the misfortune of floating around the wrong place at the wrong time.
From what I saw in my investigation, the building's extension cord supply seems to be kept inside Storage Closet D. So in a way, yeah, it was definitely in the wrong place.
Storage Closet D, huh? It was hard to make out much of it in the dark. And after the power came on, Kai came screaming for us to leave our closets. But I do recall seeing some extension cords peeking out from behind a shelf.
Since we already know the killer raided one storage closet, anyone else willing to bet they raided this one too?
The hell did they need an extension cord for?
Probably something involving the generator, given its proximity to the cord.
Same thing with the red bits, even though we don't know what they are.
Right, the red shrapnel. It definitely isn't debris left by the generator, so what exactly is it? So far, nothing in the boiler room can be directly tied to the shrapnel. At least not any of the clues that have been already discussed in this trial. If I were to flip my thinking and consider the clues we haven't discussed yet, there's no proof what I have in mind is related to the shrapnel, but when all other options are ruled out, I can only turn towards the one that hasn't. The one thing the mysterious shrapnel might be related to. Broski, right? Is the odd smell?
This is it.
Oh, I got it! Dang.
Hold that thought. We may be able to identify the shrapnel using context clues. During the investigation, there was a strange smell permeating the boiler room. It took me a moment to notice, but when I did, well, the best way to describe the scent would be if you mix cereal and alcohol together.
Cereal and alcohol? Talk about specific.
Mm-hmm. 'Tis a sign a chemical reaction was at play.
Wait, you recognize the smell?
Chemical reactions can produce some pretty pungent odors. Usually something to the tune of alcohol mixed with cereal, or fruits, or eggs. I noticed the smell going into the investigation, but it had completely slipped my mind until now.
Could it be a chemical reaction was caused by the taser?
The gun never touched the water. There's no reason for it to be the source of the smell.
What about the generator?
Considering the state of it, that generator would smell more burnt than anything else.
If the chemical reaction can't be explained by what we already know, like the generator or the taser gun, we need to consider the possibility that the explanation is the one piece of evidence still evading us, the shrapnel.
Can someone translate this into less complicated talk?
It was just a long-winded way of saying he's using process of elimination.
I know it sounds like a stretch, but if you follow this line of reasoning, a lot more questions start getting answered. Think about it. If the smell and shrapnel are linked, then whatever object the shrapnel belongs to must contain chemicals.
So we're looking for a metal object, which is also packed with chemicals?
Surely something like that would be kept inside the pharmacy.
Looking at my notes... When we originally visited the pharmacy, I recorded everything I saw. A bright red metal object would have definitely caught my eye, but
That's
I
the
don't
color
see one
scheme of
written
Broski,
here.
dude, man. Not Broski.
I got lots of metallic objects
Drag
in the
racer.
dorm room,
Drag racer.
but nothing chemical. Just big old slabs of metal.
Big ol' slabs of metal. Why does that sound so familiar? 'Cause it does. Hold on, that's right. What Ingrid said just now is similar to what she said the night everyone began bunking together. I guess this would explain my room too. It's littered with all sorts of fancy tools and metals. At the time, people were talking about their dorm rooms being themed around their talents. Drag racer, drag racer, could it be? Could the shrapnel actually be the remnants of the unique device that guy boasted about having in his room? The only way to know for sure, come on, is to put you on the spot. Let's go, drag racer. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Here you go.
It has to be you!
Great.
Jet, I need to ask you something.
What's up?
Can you tell me what's inside your dorm room?
Like, a full-on list?
Whatever works.
Sure thing. I got a pretty gnarly collection of parts and accessories. Blind spot mirrors, lithium batteries, wheels, spare brakes, you name it. Oh, I even have the legendary mantle from the 1984's Grand Prix winning speedster.
That's what I was hoping to hear.
Cool. So, why'd you want to know? Unless... Wait, I'm not being suspected, am I? No. Don't try to rope me into this, bro. I've got nothing to do with the murder.
I know you don't. You have an alibi. The only reason I ask is because that mysterious red shrapnel may be the remnants of one of your lithium batteries.
What?
I see. A lithium battery might explain the smell in the air.
And lithium? That's an explosive substance. If it made contact with water, gosh, you'd be left with a mess and a half.
Wouldn't someone have heard an explosion, though?
I did.
Really?
During the tournament, right before we lost power.
Oi, that's right. There was a boom.
Wait! I remember hearing it too!
I initially assumed the generator made the noise somehow. But if Jet's car batteries contain an explosive substance...
Hey, Jet, were your batteries bright red at all?
Maybe?
He's no help.
You don't know for sure?
I never took the batteries out of their packaging. The packaging isn't red, I can tell you that, but the actual batteries? Yeah, I got nothing.
So it can't be proven beyond a reasonable doubt?
Pretty much.
Well, what's the reaction time of a lithium battery?
The reaction time?
Who would know that?
When a lithium battery hits the water, how long does it take to combust? I think, once we know that, we can decide whether or not the battery is relevant to the case.
A lithium battery would be an almost instantaneous reaction, I'm pretty sure.
Lithium isn't a metal I've worked with, but it got beat into my head never to mix it with substances it doesn't like. All that electricity, the battery would have let out when it hit the water. It must have went straight into poor Wolfie.
There's warning labels on the battery for a reason.
Okay. If the reaction is instantaneous, then the battery would have entered the water only seconds before the generator exploded. That's really weird.
Is it?
I'm lost. I thought the batteries were the one causing
According
it, not
to
the
Diana's
generator.
testimony, when the explosion happened, she was still holding the taser gun. In which case, who threw the battery into the water?
No one did. It was with a cord. The extension cord. Someone was holding the extension cord.
Good point.
Who would hold the extension
We can rule out Wolfgang, since the Blackens can only be a student who kills another student. And Diana.
It was only Diana and Wolfgang in the boiler room, so unless Diana herself was the one to throw the battery, then the battery can't play a part in the murder.
I didn't throw the battery. I promise.
The battery was near the generator, and so was the extension cord. The shrapnel and the generator are too close for comfort. They must be correlated. That's what I'm thinking too. I'll admit that Diana throwing the battery is a possibility, but that's all it is, a possibility. There may be another way for the battery to enter the water, and until I've ruled that out, I won't settle for a culprit just yet. Yeah, because I think the extension cord is ruled. We just gotta figure out what the extension cord was used for.
If the battery...
Wait, related to the case, only Diana could have thrown it in the water. But
my arm had been...
lifting a battery would hurt too much! Neo batteries are pretty lightweight, though. The battery clearly couldn't have fallen from somewhere.
No, that's
right?
wrong!
Okay, great. It fell from the generator, and it was held from the extension cord.
No.
Which means...
the battery might actually have fallen from the generator.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Which means it had to be someone from the game room.
What makes you say that?
Because there's a vent
The
there.
shrapnel's position in front of the generator suggests there's a correlation between the two.
And who
However,
wasn't in the
it's
photo
unlikely Diana
when
threw
we were
the
playing
battery
the
at the
video game?
generator. Not only is the boiler room difficult to see in, the generator is positioned far enough from the concrete platform
And who's currently arguing
that
with us
Diana,
right now?
with her wounded arm, would need to stand on the platform's edge to make the shot. Which would obviously put her in danger of being attacked by Wolfgang again.
Yeah. Wolfgang was really close. He could reach over to me if he wanted.
If the battery hadn't been thrown, the only other possibility is that it fell down into the water. And considering the layout of the boiler room, what else could the battery fall off of? Except the generator.
Are you saying the battery was sitting on top of the generator?
Not on top, but maybe leaning on it, like teetering on the edge. Leaning? Is it leaning?
Imagine leaning a tablet against a shelf divider. If you remove the divider, the tablet would fall over, wouldn't it?
Did I get it
The
wrong?
killer might have used a similar method to push the battery off the generator.
Is the tablet in your example a stand-in for the battery?
Well, yeah.
I see. And what object is the divider supposed to be?
Oh, I got it wrong.
I got it.
Okay.
The battery may have been suspended over the generator.
Suspended over.
If the battery was suspended by something, then the presence of that item starts to make a lot more sense. The extension cord!
This is it.
Boom! Shakalaka!
The killer could have tied the extension cord around the battery and slung the battery over the generator. If the cord and battery were tied together at the time of the generator's explosion, it would explain why half of the cord had been burned away.
The more you explain it, the more unbelievable it sounds.
What if that's the point? Maybe the killer chose a crazy method because no one would believe it.
I don't see how weaving a cord into the mix is any more beneficial than leaving it out. If anything, the cord adds extra weight.
Which
Not
would
if
be
you're holding it
especially
on the other
inconvenient
side.
for Diana, because her arm was bleeding.
Right. It wouldn't benefit Diana to hold the cord. So, what if she didn't? Something else may have been supporting the cord instead.
Like someone holding it? Something like what? What do you mean something like? What?
Yeah, like Diana.
Shoot, I
It
got
wasn't
wrong.
me! I promise!
I don't want to cast suspicion on Diana. I don't. You're right. Object was holding the cord?
I got it.
Well, what was holding it? Oh, the vent? Was it the vent?
Throughout this trial, we've assumed the killer held the battery in some form or another. If the battery was on its own, the killer tossed it in. If the battery was wrapped with a cord, the killer held the other end of the cord. But in the same way something else can hold the battery, can't something else also hold the cord?
Ugh.
That's what
My
I've been
head's
saying.
starting to spin.
Are you talking about something which could keep the cord in place?
Something to keep the cord in place. The vent. If I imagine the cord and the battery it's tied around in front of the generator in the same spot where the shrapnel has surfaced.
This is it.
Woohoo.
The killer tied the cord to the vent.
What vent?
The one above the generator. It connects the boiler room and the dining hall.
There's a vent above the generator?
There's 2 of them.
You should remember some light shining into the boiler room. That's where the vent is. The vent itself is set a bit far back into the wall, so you probably assumed the spot was a small window or something.
If the boiler room and the dining hall are separated by one vent, does this make the wallpaper thin, or...?
There's 2 vents. The boiler room vent and the dining hall vent. Both are connected via a small ventilation shaft. I was able to get a close look at the boiler room vent after Ava and I woke up, which is why I know these details.
How close is close for someone under 6 foot?
Ava helped me reach the vent.
By?
Standing on her shoulders.
Letting
sitting.
me sit on her shoulders.
There you go.
Quite the visual.
Don't rub it in. He's blushing. Oh.
Anyway, if the killer tied one end of the cord to the vent and the other end around the battery, they could suspend the battery over the generator.
Something like that would result in an explosion.
What do you mean?
You say the killer tied one end of the cord to the vent and the other end to the battery. However, indoor extension cords are much longer than regular cords. They can be upwards of 9 or more meters in length, as opposed to the average cord's 2 meters.
Well, it was cut.
9 meters is significantly longer than the distance between the vent and the boiler room floor. If the killer wanted to tie the battery to the cord's other end, they would be tying it to something which is already submerged in water.
I see. It is an impossible setup.
Not necessarily. The killer can have greatly reduced the length of the cord by doing that. By cutting it. Cutting it. Cutting it. Cutting it. Cutting it.
Cut the cord using what exactly?
Scissors?
And where exactly did...
Could have been the storage closets.
Well, I've been through those closets twice.
Not even.
I got it wrong. I got it wrong. I got it wrong. I got it wrong. Wrapping the cord around the battery.
The extension cord is pretty thin and flimsy. If the killer wanted the battery to be secure, they need to wrap a lot of cord around it. Probably to the point there wouldn't be much spare cord remaining.
Her Tozu watches like a cow.
Which is a good thing, because this spare cord is what the battery will be suspended by. So long as the spare cord isn't too long, the battery will sit safely above the water.
So much effort.
Agreed. How do you even submerge the battery into the water under those circumstances?
How? Simple. By adjusting the cord's position. All the killer would need to utilize is a certain aspect of the boiler room. The vent. Right? It's the vent.
This is it.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, I gave the vent a close look after originally waking up in the boiler room. Part of my inspection included opening the vent to get a better look at the other side.
The vent can be opened?
Not all the way, but far enough for the vent to cause a domino effect if then closed. In our case, a domino effect involving the extension cord tied to it. If we assume the vent must be open for the battery to remain a safe distance above the water, we end up with a pulley system. To prevent the battery from entering the water, the vent is literally pulling the entire cord backwards. Ergo, it's not just the killer's own measurements keeping the battery in place, but the vent itself. Having opened one of these vents before, I can tell you how tough they are to move.
Rubbing my fingers around the grate directly in front of me, I pulled as hard as I could.
A lightweight battery definitely isn't heavy enough to pull one shut. It takes an actual person to close one. Which is great for the killer, because it means they get to maintain full control over when the battery enters the water. If they close the vent, the cord should slide forward and submerge the battery into the water. When that happens, the boiler room water becomes electrified by the battery's components, which in turn causes electricity to pass directly into the body of Wolfgang, who is standing in the water.
Exactly which vent is the cord being tied to?
The boiler room vent.
Funny. Earlier, you said there's a small vent shaft connecting the boiler room vent to the dining hall vent. Assuming the killer is operating this trap from outside the boiler room, since we know there were only ever 2 people in that room, how would they even be able to reach the boiler room vent? Like you said,
someone from the game.
There's a separate vent in front of it.
She has a point. I've been assuming the cord is tied to the boiler room vent, but I failed to consider the ventilation shaft. No. It becomes considerably harder to reach the boiler room vent if you have to reach down that shaft first. Not just that, I've never tested to see if the boiler room vent can open inwards. I only got it to open outwards. By that logic, a vent on the opposite side of the shaft.
This could only mean one thing.
And unfortunately, our time is up, so we're gonna have to figure out what that one thing is in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Skurboga, Captain Skurboga, and I will see you all in the next episode. Bye-bye!